So lately I've been playing a lot of Gaslands Refuelled by Mike Hutchinson, which is a tabletop game of post-apocalyptic vehicular mayhem, which is basically lots of cars with weapons on them which fight each other and race, very much like Mad Max or Death Race. Now the great thing about Gaslands Refuelled is that you can use pretty much any car or vehicle for it. It's been specifically designed to use Matchbox or Hot Wheels size cars, which of course you can paint up and add weapons to. So here's one that I've done earlier, and you can see they come out really nicely when you add bits to them, and I really like to add figures to them in order to get that kind of post-apocalyptic look. Now as far as figures go, there are a lot of different ranges in 28mm or 32mm that are out there, but when it comes to this is 20mm scale, and there's not really very many manufacturers who make figures in this kind of scale. The figures that I've used on this one are actually 3D prints, which I got from the Summoning Circle, who is a seller on Etsy that make whole ranges like this in this 20mm scale. If you've got a 3D printer, you're pretty much laughing, because you can print off any figures you want, just resizing them into this 20mm scale. But if you don't have a 3D printer, your choices are rather more limited. North Star Military Figures makes the Implements of Carnage sprues under the Friends of Gaslands line. One sprue where you can get weapons and bikes, and the second one where you can get a buggy and a dirt bike. These are styrene kits, so the details are really nice and crisp on these, but they're very limited in the figures that they actually come with. There's not many that are available in that line. So today I want to have a look at a really affordable option for 20mm figures for post-apocalyptic games. This is one of my cars that I've been working on. You can see I've got an Implements of Carnage driver in the driver's seat here, but I want to be able to add somebody with a weapon into the back here, standing up. So let's see what we could use. We're going to take a look at this Dark Alliance kit here. Dark Alliance is a Ukrainian company that's made a whole lot of 20mm scale figures. You can see here that this one here is Stalkers Set 1, and it's 039. They have got lots and lots of different types of figures available, most of them fantasy, very much in the Lord of the Rings vein. This one, as kit number 39, is Stalkers Set 1. They also have Stalkers Set 2, which would also be really good for Gaslands. And they've got Survivors, which would also work well. They've got a Rednecks kit, which would work really well for one of the sponsors in Gaslands. So you can see here that this is 1/72 scale or 20mm scale, and that there are 48 figures in this box in 12 different poses. Now this is the Stalkers set, and you can see it's got this great big huge radioactive symbol here. Now the name Stalkers really comes from the 1972 sci-fi novel Roadside Picnic by Arkady and Boris Strugatsky. There was a later Stalker movie by Andrei Tarkovsky inspired by the novel in 1979. And then of course there was the Stalker Shadow of Chernobyl computer game by GSC Game World in 2007. The term stalkers referred to people that entered into highly restricted zones in order to loot them, and since the Chernobyl disaster and the popular computer game has become synonymous with radioactive zones. If we take a look on the back, you can see here are our 12 different poses. Now these are printed at slightly larger than life size, but you can see that there is a lot of detail shown on here. These are the prototypes, because you can see that there is some metal pins here in the sculpt. So these are not pictures of the finished products, but this is pretty much what you're going to get. So let's open this up and take a look at what's inside. So opening this up, you can find that the box is very professional looking, nice quality printing. Inside, it's not quite as professional looking because this Ziploc baggie with the number 39 handwritten on it doesn't quite have that same professional feel to it, but it does the job. You can see inside here, well, let's take a look. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 different sprues. Well, I say different sprues, we've got 4 sprues, but they are all exactly the same figures. Each one of these is the same with those 12 figures in those 12 different poses. So in order to look at this properly, we only really need to check out one single sprue. So first of all, you can see the detail on these is really rather nice. For the size of them, there is a lot on here. I mean, if I compare this to my 3D print here, have a look at the trousers on this guy here. It is completely flat, and on this top here, the arm and the back, there's no detail on the actual clothing on this, whereas these have got lots and lots of detail, lots of folds and wrinkles, and the belts and pockets. There is lots and lots of detail on these. These are really, really nice. The plastic has a slightly waxy look to it, so I'd highly recommend using some kind of dishwashing detergent in order to scrub these with a toothbrush to get off some of that mold release so that paint will stick to these properly, because otherwise you can have a bit of a problem. The main problem with these Dark Alliance sets is in fact the kind of plastic that they're made from. It's a much cheaper kind of plastic and a much cheaper manufacturing process than has to be used to produce styrene kits like Warhammer or North Star uses, and it does mean that those savings do get passed on to the customer. These are a lot cheaper than styrene kits, but the kind of plastic here is a bit of a pain to work with. It doesn't like paint or glue, and removing flashing is quite tricky. Once these have been washed, I would recommend putting a good quality primer on these before you try to paint them, and because it's a more flexible plastic, you've got to be very careful that the paint does not chip or crack or flake off with movement of the parts. But I have to say, I'm pleasantly surprised that these are not as bendy or as flexible as I feared that they might be. Styrene kits like this can be glued together with poly cement, which melts the parts together, and they hold really, really well, and it's a really strong bond. This kind of plastic though doesn't like glue. Poly cement will not work on these because they're not polystyrene, and they don't really like super glue very much. So these I'm going to have to play about with to try to get them to stick to my cars properly. Might have to try experimenting with wood glue or super glue, some of the all-purpose plastic bonding glues, possibly Gorilla Glue, but I think I'm going to have a bit of a hard time with these. If you've got any tips about what kind of glues should be used for this kind of plastic, then please let me know in the comments down below. I'd be really interested to hear from you. The other big problem with this kind of plastic is flashing. Now, I have to say, I'm very pleasantly surprised with the amount of flashing that is present on these, as in there is very, very little flashing on these particular ones on this particular set. But I do have a set of the rednecks which I got from one of my friends, and you can see the amount of flashing on these is huge, and flashing on this kind of plastic is a real problem. You can see these figures here, there is lots. Unlike polystyrene kits like this, where you can use a mold tool in order to scrape down those mold lines, then this flashing, it doesn't really come off very easily. You can cut some of it, but some of it, it tends to rip up and tear, and it's, yeah, unless you can get a really, really sharp blade on here, you have to be careful because it might start tearing up, and once it tears up, it just leaves a really, it's just a bit of a mess. You've got to be particularly careful around faces, obviously. So it's not the easiest stuff to work with. Again, if you've got any tips for this kind of flashing removal from this kind of plastic, I'd be interested to know what your experiences are. Let me know in the comments down below. As far as flashing goes, the most I can really make out is this piece on the magazine of this guy's machine gun here. There's a little bit there, but other than that, these, I'm really pleasantly surprised, and the detail on these is also much better than I thought it might be. Well, let's take a look. So we have got this guy here with a gas mask, backpack, machine gun, crouching. That could be used pretty much for anything in Gaslands. Got another person here with a gas mask, machine gun, got a backpack as well, bedroll, really nice detail. This guy, a little bit taller, I think, if he's cut off of here with his minigun. The detail on these packs and straps is really good. Look, you can see he's even got this cigar in his mouth that's come out really well. We've got a kind of Michonne Walking Dead type character here with the two samurai swords and the samurai sword holders on her back here. This person here, bandolier of bullets, axe, shotgun, goggles, really quite nice. And we've got this one here, again another gas mask wearing survivalist with machine gun, gas mask, backpacks. And then down here got somebody else. He's got a big curved, maybe like a Gurkha knife, machine gun, bandana on their head, backpacks, lots and lots of pouches. This one here, backpacks, pouches, everything you need. Goggles on top of their head. Big shotgun, I think that is. Beard. Really good detail on these. This one, very much like a cowboy. See, he's got goggles on as well. Big cowboy hat. Long jacket on this one. Got our Lara Croft style figure here. Two pistols, one in each hand. Bit of flashing that's going to have to come off of there. You can see, again, really good detail. Hair coming down back in a ponytail. Be really interesting to paint these up, see what they look like. Got another one here with another samurai sword going through their backpack. Long coat on. Goggles again. Really quite nice detail. Bit of a cod piece there from the looks of things. And our last one, cap on. I think that one's wearing a cap. Fire axe on the backpack. Gun. Possibly wearing shades or goggles there. Really quite good. You can see that there is a nice variety of poses, and we've got some different heights, which adds to the realism here. You can see this guy here with the minigun is definitely taller than some of the ones with gas masks. So for the price of these, this is a really nice pack. Now, price is not actually something that I've mentioned yet, but it is a big plus point with this pack. This box of 48 figures cost me £12 delivered. Now, given that there's 48 figures, that £12 split between the 48 means that you're paying approximately 25 pence per figure, which is fantastic value. And if you just split the £12 between the 12 individual poses, that's only £1 per figure, which is still a hell of a lot cheaper than Warhammer. Yes, you've only got 12 poses and 4 sprues of those poses, but you could easily paint them in different colours in order to get some more variety, or even customise them a bit by swapping heads or moving some of those arms around. Although, to be honest, what I would actually do, and what I will be doing, is taking some of these sprues that I don't need and swapping them with other people who have also got multiple sprues from these boxes, and then getting a lot more. So for 25 pence per figure, this is a really, really good value kit. I'm looking forward to taking these, cutting the bases off of them, and getting them put into my cars and painted up, because that's gonna look pretty cool. So yes, I would definitely recommend Dark Alliance 20mm figures for Gaslands Refuelled, but I'm always on the lookout for other manufacturers and other ranges of figures and weapons which I can use on these cars. If you know about any other figures which are a good scale for this, then please let me know in the comments down below. I would love to hear from you. And if you're not playing Gaslands Refuelled, if you've not had a go at it, check it out. It is a fantastic game, highly, highly recommended. Until next time, this is Attic Raiders Retro Reviews.